Okay, welcome everyone. In this video, I want to discuss what is a list before we move on to talk about how we can create lists in R and subset lists of R and create nested lists in R, etc. So a list in R is a non-atomic vector. So let's break that down. There's two parts to that. It's non-atomic and a vector. So a vector means that it is a one-dimensional thing. So we only have the location. We only need one coordinate to give the location. So we have element one in a list, element two in a list, and so on. It's non-atomic. That means that the elements inside of a vector don't need to be of one of the basic data types, which are character, integer, double, logical, complex, or raw. So for example, I can have a list that has simple features objects, which we just talked about. I can have a list where each element is a list. So the elements inside of a list can be all sorts of things. They're not limited to one of these basic data types. And there are kind of two ways where lists are commonly used in programming. One is when we want to create a vector of non-atomic types. So I want to have a vector, maybe I want every element in this thing to have the same data type, but I want that data type to be something other than these basic data types. So maybe I want to have a vector of LM objects. We just talked about that LM function earlier when we were doing some linear regression. But the point here is maybe I want to have a vector of data types, just a homogeneous data type, but that data type is not one of these basic data types. The second type of list that you often come across is when you want to have a vector that has different data types. And we've seen this earlier in this semester. So maybe it's not the fact that I need a non-atomic vector, but maybe I just want to have a vector that has different basic data types in it, or even all sorts of data types. And so this is useful when you're doing object-oriented programming, but that's not what we're going to get into this semester. But I do want to just discuss these types of lists because they do come up when you're programming in R. So we'll first discuss how we can create a list, and then we'll talk about how we can create nested lists and subset lists. So to create a list, we've done this, but it was much earlier in the semester. There is a list function that we can use. And then we just simply enter each element followed by a comma, and then the next element followed by a comma. And in this case, our elements in the list, they don't need to be a number or a character or logical. They can be all sorts of things. So here I've created a list where my first element is a vector, a numeric vector. My second element in this list is a matrix. And my third element in this list is a function, is the mean function. So this is a list. I've got three things in my list. The first is a vector. The second is this matrix that has these integers. It's a 2 by 5 matrix. And the last element is the mean function. So I can see that. So now this is much more general thing than the vectors that we were working with. Vectors needed to have a single data type, and that data type was restricted to one of these basic data types. So that's how we can create a list. We just enter each of the elements in our list inside of this list function separated by commas. We can also give names to each of the elements in our list. So we just put the name that we want followed by an equal sign, and then we enter the element in our list. So in this case, I'm calling this vector of the integers from 1 to 10 A. The second element in my list, I'm going to name B, and that's the matrix. And then the third element, I'm going to name F, and that's our function for the mean. And running this, You can see we get very similar looking output, but instead of labeling it 1, 2, and 3, these kind of generic indices, it's now labeled with the name of the element. So this was A, this was B, and this was F. And if we have multiple lists that we want to join together, combine, I can do so using the C function, the combine function. So here I've got a list. This first list has two elements. The first element is the number 1. The second element is a vector 1, 2. I've got another list. The first element is the character string A. The second element is a vector of two character strings. And the third list that I have here is a list that has two elements. The first element is logical true, and the second element is a vector of logicals. And if I combine these three lists together, the result is going to be a single list back. And this list has 6 elements in it. Each of these lists had 2 elements, and I merged them together. So that gives me 6 elements. I have the number 1, the vector 1, 2. I have the character string A, the vector of character strings AB, the logical true, and then the vector of logicals true, false. And this is just a single list now that has 6 elements in our list. Okay, in the next video, we'll talk about how we can subset lists.